Okay, I'm going to take you through step by step TD42 liner removal and install. So what I've done is I've set the block up in the boring bar and bored the liners out so they're paper thin, and basically sharpen up a screwdriver and split the liner to get them out. So you want to make them to within probably about 10-12 thou wall thickness each side, and that pretty well splits open like a bit of paper. So they end up like this in the bin after. So we just take a few cuts, start off at 96mm, end up at about 98.4, and that leaves the liner paper thin like that. Just split it down the guts with a screwdriver, and all that rubbish goes in the bin. Then what we'll do then is we take a fine cut across the deck. So I'll machine off around between 8 and 10 thou off the deck. Normally gets them pretty flat. I'll set it up in the machine so it leaves the engine number in for the guys, so that they've got their original engine number. And so we'll machine that small amount off the deck here, and then what we do is we run a hone down in the center of the parent bore. So first we've established that the bores are round enough to fit the sleeves too, and there's no cracks internally. And then we'll run a hone down there to clean all the junk out of there, and clean this register out nice and clean, sandpaper it out, throttle body clean it, and then I'll take it over to the press and press the liners in. Now, these liners are very thin. It's one of the weaknesses of this engine. It's got a very thin liner in it. So it's a step liner, and I use a semi-finished liner. So once I press those in, I'll machine that internally and hone it to standard bore size again. So a lot of people try to put a lump of steel on top of that and smash the liners into the block, but you end up doing more damage than it's worth. I've seen this top ledge totally split open doing it that way. So press it in nice and even. There's no smashing them in the block, and that's the most successful way to fit them into the block. And I'll take it over to the press now, and I'll press the liners in, and I'll take you through that procedure. Okay, on the press now, pressing the sleeves in, press them in nice and square. Just before I get to the bottom of that register, what I'll do is I'll put some throttle body cleaner in there and blow it all out nice and clean. Then I'll go for the last press, and it'll be seated nicely. So what I'll do is I'll check that the sleeve's all the way down once it's pressed on with a depth mic to make sure it's in all the way, make sure it's square. What will happen now is, because I've taken 8 to 10 thou off the deck, these sleeves will be 8 to 10 thou above the deck. So now what I'll do is I'll set it back up in the machine again, and machine off the tops of the sleeves nice and level, and leave them up 3 thou. Just got it up in the machine again, machining off the tops of the sleeves now. So what's happening is the machine's machining the tops of the sleeves. It's not machining this part of the deck because the deck's lower. So we're going to machine the tops of these sleeves nice and level, because when you fit them, they're never level on the top. Then we're going to leave them up 2 to 3 thou, and that's the correct dimension for the liner height protrusion. So we've pretty well got most of the tops of the liners cleaned up now. Took about 3 to 4 thou to get the liners nice and straight all the way around. Basically got a little bit of a shadow there. You can see how it's not quite cleaned up. This is what we're trying to achieve here, a full nice square machine surface on top of the liners for the gasket to sit on. And once again, as I said before, we want the liners up above the deck about 2 to 3 thou. Okay, so we've got all the liners nice and level now, up between 2.5 to 3 thou above the deck. And now we'll set the boring bar up to machine the inside of the sleeve out to leave 5 thou of material to hone. So just got to square all this up now. the finger run out so it's 0. It's nice and round. That's it. Now I've got this cutter set so that it cuts 1/5 smaller than finished size. Just go down automatically, automatic speed. Probably taking about a 20-25 thou cut there. At least 5 thou to hone out on the Sun and Diamond hone.